Bonsoir. Avant de commencer, on vous invite à prendre à votre disposition des casques ou des récepteurs pour la traduction. La discussion se fera plutôt en anglais. Donc, on a des interprètes qui sont là. Donc, on vous demande si vous en avez besoin de prendre. Il y a Omar qui circule avec un plateau avec des récepteurs.
Bonsoir à tous et à toutes. Je m'appelle Hadja Fanta, je suis assistante commissaire à Raw Material, curatrice à Raw Material Company. Raw Material est un centre pour l'art, le savoir et la société basé à Dakar, Sénégal. C'est une initiative qui s'articule autour du commissariat d'exposition, de l'éducation artistique, des résidences, de la production de savoir et de la documentation de la théorie artistique et de la critique d'art. Raw Académie est un programme résidentiel expérientiel pour la recherche et l'étude de la pratique et de la pensée artistique et curatoriale. Raw Académie expose les participants et les intervenants à l'environnement artistique dynamique et historique, critique d'une ville, tout en leur offrant un espace. Leur offrant un espace libre pour l'exploration, l'enquête, la recherche et la production de leurs propres idées. Le programme est conçu pour promouvoir un échange et un dialogue intense organisé autour de sessions publiques et fermées qui comprennent des séminaires, des conférences, des ateliers, des expositions, des visites, des institutions culturelles et des publications. Le programme se déroule généralement à Dakar pendant 5 à 7 semaines, mais peut être déployé en fonction de son thème dans d'autres zones géographiques. Chacune de ces sessions s'articule autour d'une carte conceptuelle maintenant pensée par un directeur ou directrice dont la pratique démontre une approche originale de l'art, du commissariat d'exposition et de la critique d'art avec l'apport de confrères qualifiés invités.
Merci Hadja. Je m'appelle Filigé, je suis commissaire des programmes ici à Raw Material Company. La 11e session de la Raw Académie centre sur les réflexions ouvertes lors de l'état des lieux 5, le sens du lieu, déplacement, replacement, non-placement, un symposium international conçu en collaboration avec le professeur Fedwin Sarr. Dans cette continuité, cette 11e session de la Raw Académie est partagée par des fellows et des facultés qui ont en commun des préoccupations et dont l'expertise de ces questions est reconnue. Nous avons parmi les facultés l'anthropologue et historien Abdourahmane Seck, l'architecte et anthropologue Sénégalais Akbodjilou, l'historienne et commissaire d'exposition Samia Heni, l'historienne interdisciplinaire, activiste, organisatrice sociale et politique Dr Sónia Borges ici avec nous, la chercheuse, designer et professeure d'architecture Maïline Loko. Et enfin, nous avons aussi Ali Beta, musicien, commissaire d'exposition, cinéaste, écrivain et fondateur de Keno Laboratoire des Imaginaires, et aussi artiste et chercheur, innovateur et ingénieur de l'impact social Koudous Onikekou, ainsi que l'ensemble de l'équipe Raw Material Company.
On a aussi les fellows, Abdourahmane Adja, photographe et cinématographe basé à Marrakech. Aisha Alioubima est curatrice, autrice, chercheuse et photographe basée à Abuja. Amabé est une artiste ghanéenne tissant son existence entre les États-Unis et l'Afrique de l'Ouest. Foga est une nomade académique avec des formations en sociologie, relations internationales et travail social avec origine camerounaise basée à Bala. Et Fouata est géographe, écrivain et artiste visuel ghanéen.
Nous avons aussi Younes Ben Slimane, cinéaste d'origine de Tunisie, travaillant sur l'architecture vernaculaire tunisienne. On a Zasli Louhi, qui est artiste camerounaise d'origine de Douala. On a aussi Massauka, qui est photographe et réalisateur sénégalais né à Saint-Louis. On a Catherine Annabelle, qui est une artiste interdisciplinaire, architecte, chercheuse, éducatrice et boulangère indonésienne basée à Mexico. On a parmi nous aussi comme observatrice Eugénie Char pour cette session, qui est écrivaine et artiste pluridisciplinaire.
On a aussi Lauren Lois Dua, est une artiste designer transdisciplinaire ghanéenne. Sónia. Sónia Borges est une militante spécialisée en histoire antidisciplinaire, une coordonnatrice sociopolitique. Elle a obtenu son doctorat en histoire de l'éducation à la Humboldt University de Berlin. Elle est aussi co-auteure du livre Ragas Because the Sea Has No Place to Grab, a mémoire of home migration and African liberation, écrit avec Maria Isabel Vaz et autour de Militant Education Liberation Struggle Consciousness, the PAIGC Education in Guinea-Bissau from 1963 to 1978. À la suite de ses recherches, Vaz Borges a coécrit les courts-métrages Weaving Stories While Walking, Mangrove School, and Navigating the Pilot School. Vaz Borges a co-commissarié la pavillon portugais à la Biennale de Venise en 2024 avec les projets Greenhouse et avec Mónica de Miranda. Elle a dirigé et coordonné la publication Greenhouse Ecology and Resistance. Elle est actuellement professeure adjointe en histoire et dans le programme des études africaines à l'Université Drexel de Philadelphie, États-Unis. Vaz Borges continue d'écrire sur l'éducation et les luttes de libération et développe actuellement une proposition de livre centrée sur son concept d'archives ambulantes et sur le processus de la mémoire, du lieu et des imaginaires.
Alors, le thématique de ce programme public, lecture publique, c'est marcher, le tissage des lignes de désir. Au cours des sessions, Dr Sónia Vaz Borges ainsi que les fellows ont tenté d'incarner et de relier par la praxis le dialogue entre Bell Hooks et la trilogie des livres sur l'éducation. Teaching to Transgress, Teaching Community, Teaching Critical Thinking, avec le Parti africain pour l'indépendance de la Guinée et du Cap-Vert, et les 3 principes de l'éducation militaire que le mouvement de libération a développés au cours de la lutte armée. Hooks considérait les salles de classe comme une communauté, un lien profondément lié à notre capacité de générer de l'excitation est fortement affectée par l'intérêt que nous nous portons les uns aux autres, par le fait que nous entendons les voix des uns et des autres, que nous reconnaissons la présence de ces autres. La praxis de l'éducation militante du PAIGC comprenait que les 3 aspects d'une éducation libératoire dépendaient de la combinaison des 3 éléments, à savoir la formation technique, l'éducation politique et la transformation des comportements individuels et collectifs. Alors, collectivement, ils ont développé leur vision de l'éducation en tant que praxis de l'imagination et de la liberté, en poursuivant le chemin de l'éducation et de la salle de classe qui nous mène à ce moment, clôturant le séminaire par une conférence publique intitulée « Marcher, le tissage des lignes de désir ». Lors de cette conférence publique, Sónia Vaz Borges partira de la projection d'un film réalisé en collaboration avec Mónica de Miranda, intitulé « Weaving Stories While Walking », pour explorer la praxis de la marche et du tissage comme un continuum de travail dans lequel mémoire personnelle et collective, recherche, archives et lieux non seulement se rencontrent, mais aussi s'entrelacent. À l'issue de la conférence, une conversation suivra avec le journaliste sénégalais spécialisé en art et culture, Aboubacar Demba Cissokho. Et ouais.
Aboubacar Demba Cissokho est une journaliste sénégalaise spécialisée en arts et culture, titulaire du diplôme supérieur de journalisme obtenu en 2000 au Centre d'études des sciences et techniques de la formation de l'Université Cheikh Anta Diop et travaille depuis 20 000 ans à l'agence de presse sénégalaise APS à Dakar où il réside. Depuis juin 2015, il anime le blog Le Grenier de Kibli, dans lequel il publie chroniques, carnets, analyses et critiques de sujets touchant au art, à la culture, à l'histoire, à la mémoire et au patrimoine. Il couvre l'actualité culturelle nationale et pose dans ses écrits une critique de la production artistique des créateurs d'Afrique et d'ailleurs, dans le festival rencontres littéraires, cinématographiques et autres biennales. Autant d'activités journalistiques et des rendez-vous honorés qui lui ont permis d'acquérir une solide expérience dans la critique de la production artistique des créateurs d'Afrique et d'ailleurs.
Alors, on arrive à la fin de l'introduction. Nous allons procéder avec une lecture publique en premier, avec Dr. Sónia Borges, suivie d'une projection du film Weaving Stories While Walking, suivie d'une discussion avec Aboubacar Demba Cissokho. Donc, merci beaucoup à Sónia Borges pour ces séminaires, ces séances dans les lieux de la ville qu'on a habités comme lieu d'apprentissage et de communauté. Donc, sans plus tarder, on vous invite à venir. Merci.
I don't know if I sit or if I stand. I think I'll stand so I can see everyone. Good evening. As I was already thoroughly present, my name is Sónia Borges, and today I would like to share with you some thoughts of the research that I've been doing for a couple of years, but I'll see how it's going to develop. But first of all, thank you, Philly and Aja, for the introduction. And I must say that I'm thrilled to be here today in Senegal, in this home with you all, and the warm welcome that I have been feeling since I was invited to participate at session 11. The last couple of days since I arrived in Dakar, I have received boosts of joyful energy of being here working and sharing with the fellows and the raw material team. Thank you all for making these days so special. I'm also practicing my French that I can only read, and slowly is coming to my mind. And I'm proud of myself today because I navigate the entire city with my bad French, and everybody was able to understand me. Or maybe the entire city is too much, but part of it. So when I was first asked to share with you this space and to present and in whatever I wanted, my first idea was to focus on 3 of my published work: Na Pode Espera, Militant Education, and Ragas. Seeing them as a continued body of work where personal and collective memory, archives, and places encounter and intertwine. There has been a slight change of plans, and what I have to share with you here today is some of the results of my work on education and our ongoing liberation struggles, and their link with history and our stories. A discussion that I sincerely hope it will open the doors for a joyful and exciting sharing discussion, and we can all discuss all the topics, the one planned but not presented, and the one that starts now with the following quote. What is a liberation struggle? People think is a lot of shooting. The most, 99%, is walking, endless walking. And it goes on day and night, week after week, month after month, year after year. And they continue into a trance in a way. While you look, you take the back, and the feet are walking, walking, and walking. Take an example. You are walking on the path, and suddenly the path divides into a fork. You go right or you go left. Not politically, but physically. You have to choose. So there is no command saying, you go right or you go left. Everybody sits down and talk. Endless discussions. It was fantastic to see this close connection to people around us. The guerrilla soldiers, men and women, with no hierarchy. And this is the liberation struggle. That is why the peasant is a guerrilla soldier and the guerrilla soldier is a peasant. End of quote. These are the words of the Swiss filmmaker Leonard Malmer, who was one of the few international people who was present in Guinea-Bissau after proclamation of independence in 1973. He is not the only one describing this endless walking and endless conversation during the guerrilla war against Portuguese colonialism. Many of the people I interviewed mentioned this constant walking. The Argentinian Ernesto Che Guevara, and one of the major figures of the Cuban Revolution, wrote on his book, A Guerrilla Warfare, referring, and here I'm paraphrasing, that a person can walk 30 to 50 kilometers during night hours and first hours of the daylight. Going back to 2013 and 2014, when doing my research in Cabo Verde and in Guinea-Bissau, I reenacted unconsciously part of this constant walking when going to interview the freedom fighters of the liberation struggle. We usually call this collection of interviews as oral history, but I think that the term per se does not encapsulate all the knowledges, experiences, the scars, and the hope they carry everywhere they go. More also, it does not capture how they change and continue to change history. Their work created a place of freedom through their constant walking. And here I'm using the definition provided by Professor Lucy Wilson-Gilmore that describes this place of freedom as a place that we make, and make it again, and we make it in all these different configurations. A place that means whatever you are at, whatever you're doing, whatever bites your existence, by working the energy that you, that I, that we, and others bring together to remedy that problem is part of the changing everything. So all aspects of social reality are part of what has to change. End of quote. The work of making it again and again, and the transmissions they left and left behind or leave behind, continues to create, to this day, these possible and tangible places, wherever they arrive, from Guinea-Bissau to Zenguishore, to Palestine, from South Sudan, from Burkina Faso to Mali, and to the many other territories. In the process, they displace themselves only to create new places through the intensive work of weaving. In a dictionary, weaving is described, and I quote one of the many meanings, the craft of action of forming fabric in interlacing threads, or the act of making clothes by repeatedly combining different parts in a complicated or skilled way. My first experience with making thread was with my mother and my grandmother, by doing what we in Cape Verde we call cordon, a layered thread of sewing line that when twisted and tied into a knot at the end, we could use to lock and braid our hair. Think in the liberation struggle, the building of a freedom place, as a collective work by walking, a walking where trails meaning here mark or a series of signs or objects left behind by the passage of someone or something, intercept, connect, creating a collective and unique emotional and knowledgeable fabric almost impossible to track by the common lenses of research. how do the stories interlace with each other? What kind of unique threads and patterns their encounter create of the liberation struggle? What kind of plots can we create at the end? Plots that can teach us other histories. For this reason, I began to think of walking as well as living, to think the liberation struggle as a collective work that it was, of paths that were traveled and stories that intertwine without at the same time losing their individuality. Despite the constant walking from above, we are unable to see what geographers and architects would call desire lines, meaning a path gradually eroded by the repeated passage of pedestrians, cyclists, or animals. So we can only speculate about these pathway lines, invisible to the naked eye, knowing that they connect the places and create the spaces in a sort of weaving of freedom. The film that we are about to share with you, Weaving Stories While Walking, is one of the results of this process. It's part of the interdisciplinarity of my work. It's one of the many vessels with whom I can weave my practice as a militant historian. And I'm not trained in film, but I allow it to enter my practice, collaborating with visual artists to create other possibilities of how research can reach a broader audience. If we think about the liberation struggle, in short, as I define it as an individual, collective, process response of people fighting against every kind of oppression, I see the terrain of the liberation struggle, the terrain of the liberation struggle, as an international loom that will embrace all these threads of stories. The beginning of this loom is in process, meaning here, and I quote from the book on weaving, still on exploration, selection, development, a potent vitality not yet limited, not yet circumscribed by a tribe and traditional. And maybe this will be a way of walking while weaving trails to tell, transmit in sounds, waves of histories. To tell, transmit our histories, our stories, but more importantly, how do we do that work, has been a practice of the core of my work as an historian, or better said, as a militant interdisciplinary historian, meaning the words that Philly already mentioned. The militant word here means namely the technical training, the political education, and the transformation of individual and collective behaviors. All these three practices are deeply based on the concept of action of the PIGC. As for the rest, I will leave it to you to enjoy the film and continue the conversation. Thank you. I must say that the film is in 4 languages, Portuguese, Cape Verdean Creole, English, and Italian. So we will have English subtitles, just as a preview of what is going to happen.
It is not by moral outrage alone that people have lent their lives to the struggle for better worlds. Neither is it by the purity of instruction from theory. There is certainly no royal road, only the one made by walking. Many have walked, many have been forced to move, many have found roads while walking with others.
Na altura sabíamos que era guerra. Neste momento, quando me recordo de certas cenas, fico com medo. Mas na altura nem sequer fazia ideia que esses momentos, essas situações, eram extremamente perigosas. Não tínhamos completamente a noção exata do perigo. A primeira vez que assisti a um bombardeamento, bombardeamento de primeira base de Moras, eu confesso que foi nesse dia que eu senti e acabei por perceber o que é morte, o que é morrer, porque eu vi pessoas a morrer. Eu própria apanhei 2 filhaços na altura. A minha irmã também apanhou. Eu estava sentado num sítio, vi muita gente morrer nessa altura. Lembro de ver uma bomba estourar por cima, quase por cima da cabeça da gente. Havia uma grande árvore, nós estávamos em baixo, e o avião lançou uma bomba. Precisamente caiu por cima dessa árvore, com fumo e tudo. Isso foi em 64, salvo erro, outubro de 64. Eu era uma criança nessa altura. Foi nessa altura que comecei a perceber o que era de facto a guerra. Eu vi pessoas a morrer. Pessoas que vi andar de um lado para o outro e de repente, naquele dia, vi ali morrerem à minha frente. Esse cenário marcou muito até hoje em termos psicológicos. E já lá vão praticamente 50 anos.
È ovvio che alla Casa dos Estudantes do Império avevamo intuito che c'era qualcosa che non andava. Già allora sentivamo che anche il Portogallo aveva problemi politici. Quindi c'era un certo controllo, un certo monitoraggio dei nostri passi. Ricordo che una volta mi fu chiesto di fare l'inventario delle attrezzature delle case delle persone. È stato incredibile. Vado in 2 case, busso alla porta e dico che volevo sapere quanti piatti avevano, quanti bicchieri avevano. Cioè, questa è una di quelle cose in cui uno ci deve proprio provare. Sono andato un paio di volte e poi ho rinunciato. Ho detto che non volevo. Ho cominciato a capire che poteva essere una manovra della PID, la Polizia Internazionale di Sicurezza dello Stato, per farmi scoprire e vedere se avevo davvero la capacità di indagare, di scoprire la vita delle persone. Così ho smesso, ma con i miei colleghi sentivamo che c'erano problemi in Angola, la lotta in Angola. Ho sentito, anche se non ero coinvolta, che c'era qualcosa di sbagliato nella conversazione e tenendo conto dei contatti che avevo con i prigionieri politici, con le famiglie dei prigionieri politici, e quando sono andata a Porto con le famiglie dei prigionieri politici in Portogallo, perché il signor Alves de Carvalho aveva un rapporto con loro. Ogni volta che veniva, contattava tutti i parenti per portare pacchi e notizie per i prigionieri di Tarafà. E si ascoltano i prigionieri che raccontano quello che hanno passato a Tarafà. Persone come noi che raccontano. Ricordo che uno diceva con angoscia che l'unico amico che aveva in prigione era una scimmia e un giorno hanno ucciso la scimmia davanti a lui. Quella è stata la cosa più violenta per lui. E altri eventi. Una volta al bar, la ragazza che serviva il caffè sente la conversazione e intui che si trattava di persone che erano state a Tarafal. Allora si è avvicinata e ha detto: senta, mi scusi, lei viene da Tarafal? Non ha mica conosciuto il tale... E lui era morto. Quindi queste sono tutte cose che ti segnano e ti rivoltano. Soprattutto credo che abbiano avuto una grande influenza sulla decisione che ho preso, indipendentemente dal mio contatto con la Casa dos Estudantes do Império. Così, un bel giorno, arriva il mio marito e mi dice che lì a Luca da San Tomé ci aveva detto che avevamo 24 ore per partire, con una borsa di 5 kg. Tutto qui. Non ha nemmeno chiesto dove saremmo andati, cosa avremmo fatto o l'altro. Ci siamo preparati, abbiamo chiuso la porta, avevamo un piccolo appartamento con 2 camere da letto, con tutto dentro. Abbiamo chiuso la porta e siamo partiti. Abbiamo preso il treno per Porto, siamo stati in un hotel a Porto e il giorno dopo ci siamo diretti verso i confini spagnoli. L'unica persona a cui ho detto che stavo per partire e che era un rischio era portoghese, il signor Luis Alves de Carvalho. E anche lui l'ha presa con la dimensione che le avevo dato. È stato l'unico. Va bene, Lilica. Vai.
Mbaba na mesmo maré que... Bom, me joga para nome para tempo de confundir que esse que ngacha na conacri com que se acompanha na viagem para lá. Quando pergunta de nós que dar o budget, embora que me esteve nem recebe que esse budget, ou mesmo a hora de viagem ou coincidência. Allah que está discutindo a cheia e não estava tudo mal com febre, completamente disponível. Que se pergunta acima, gosta de quem tem exame tem que ir para a escola? Não. A nós nunca temos esse tipo de entendimento. Naquele tempo, a aspiração mais tamanho de quem é que tem que abraça a ideia de libertação nacional era Amílcar Cabral, chamava ele Mandista Flaga. E quem está discutida? Quer dizer, o máximo curso que está fazendo era comunicar com esse camarada de confiança, que esse que tem a mesma causa de solidariedade, confidencialidade, etc. E não falava assim. Oxa, não estava entendido. Mas agora seria, mas não recebeu os bilhetes. Nós na Bélgica, não tinha uma situação particular. Deixa eu fazer um parêntese. Quando não estava na Bélgica, não recebe orientação para trabalho com o núcleo de estudantes e cooperar que tem naquele país lá. Mas era pouco. Então, não recebe orientação para trabalho, sobretudo com a Holanda, onde já estava um migrante convertido. Esse lá não para um trabalho com aqueles imigrantes de França, sobretudo de Moselle, uma zona que ficava perto de Bélgica. Nós não estávamos acima, frente e frágil. Está subida lixo, estava aí. Escola era um curso secundário. Que secundário no sentido de nível secundário, mas sim de prioridade. Quer dizer, luta de libertação era prioridade. E nós não tínhamos para estudar quando ocupávamos tempo de forma útil. Até para onde já não sabia direito naquele lugar que garanta como educação no contexto de luta. Portanto, esse que não recebe nosso bilhete que trazia da Alemanha, na verdade, no âmbito de colaboração que se tem com o PAIGC, Partido Africano de Independência Guiné-Cabo Verde, República Democrática Alemã, dando bilhete e recebendo na Berlim durante 13 anos. De Berlim, no sul de Interfug, uma companhia que está nunca tem existido mais. Não vai para Conakry. Na onde não receberam e nos espalharam um para ali, outro para lá, cada quem é que se funciona. Mas sobre aquilo, eu também conversaria com isso. Não lembra quando chega a Conakry, com tudo aquele entusiasmo, canto que não chega dentro do Conakry, que não prepara para sair contra os camaradas que esperavam nós. Nós mesmo que saímos direito, você que esperava nós. Aliás, o único curso que nos sabemos era uma etapa importante de nossa vida e para a luta de libertação de nosso país, até esperava nós. E se uma antiga Conakry, quem prepara para não sair, canto quem sai da avião, não te lembra cima de hoje, modo que bafo de um ar quente dentro do rosto de tal forma, que me vira o rosto para trás, facatá, de tal maneira, para onde chegar a única que já tocava na concurso. Não te lembra desse curso absurdo ali? Dia hoje. Mas era um calor de tal casta e que era condicionado do avião, tinha ignorância sobre calor tropical, continental, etc. Mas era um calor doido, não te lembra segurar ridículo ali, que por acaso nunca costuma contar. E segura ridículo ali, vira para trás, facata. Ai, e chuva verga hoje. Para eu ver se o homem que tocava em algum curso. Posso. Mas tudo que ali era tão ensinado de algum curso que também conheceva em termos de umidade, de chuva e de vida na conacri. E que ele mostrar uma luta, que luta que eu sonhava, que eu olhava na filme, eu luta leva na livro de que é revolucionária, etc. Na realidade, que acima não imaginava. Que luta era um combate de ser humano, entre ser humano, para chegar a um certo valor e alcança um determinado objetivo. Tudo que ela dá numa aula de realismo, demo ensinando, fica apenas.
This day, May 10th, was also when I had a meeting with Aboubacar Demba, scheduled for 9 a.m. But he was very busy. In the end, we did not meet until 5 p.m. I had prepared myself thoroughly, among other things, by listing specific questions I wanted to put to him, besides discussing overriding theoretical issues of democracy and development as they were taking concrete shape in Guinea-Bissau at the time. I had also brought along a copy to give him of a recent article of mine based on my 1970 visit in the liberated areas of the South. Our meeting, interview, seminar, discussion lasted for close to 2 hours. The broad concerns with education was already well known to me and easily documented through his writings. Thus, I did not use the limited time available at our meeting to focus specifically on education, which I already had been informed about and discussed it in meetings with Lili Gaboal, Carlos Dias, Chico Bach, and many others, more specifically, those responsible for education.
Olha, para te dizer com toda a sinceridade, se apanhasses uma fotografia de uma escola e me mostrasses, mesmo que fosse uma escola aqui ao lado e me mostrasses, provavelmente eu não conseguiria identificar. Porque vamos ver, primeiro, a diferença entre a escola do mato e a escola da tabaca. A escola no mato normalmente consiste no seguinte: num local considerado relativamente seguro, pois estamos em situação de guerra e é preciso que esses lugares deem alguma segurança quanto à aproximação, quanto à informação inimiga, quanto ao possível desembarque ou ataque do inimigo. Portanto, havia já uma experiência considerável lá nos finais dos anos 60 no KGC, quanto à localização, hoje dizíamos ubicação, vou por influência espanhola via das Caraíbas e de Cuba, em concreto, a ubicação ou a localização, implantação dessas escolas era sobretudo num local que fosse relativamente seguro, que não estivesse longe da água, elemento água, e que fosse relativamente acessível, não por estrada, porque não se podia falar de estrada nessas circunstâncias, mas de terrenos facilmente acessíveis por meios muito motorizados, portanto, mesmo sem estradas. E depois, bom, isto é quanto à localização. Quanto ao ambiente, eram os elementos principais a ter em conta. Quanto à escola em si, a gente pegava numa katana, e a katana era o instrumento para todo o serviço, e ainda é no interior da Guiné. E cortavam-se árvores, portanto, ramos prendiam-se e depois os próprios elementos vegetais serviam para atar esses ramos, e facilmente fazia-se uma sala. E quanto ao mobiliário ou equipamento escolar, bom, é o mesmo material, a gente vai com a mesma katana, corta ramos mais delgados, mais finos, uns compridos, outros atravessados, e a gente vai atando e tem a mesa e tem o assento. Portanto, era nisso que consistia a base de material da escola. Depois os livros, a Sónia já viu vários exemplares. O livro era raríssimo, era um bem extremamente escasso. Havia os cadernos e havia os lápis, os aparadores, e era fundamentalmente isso. Depois a ardósia, ou o quadro preto, ou o quadro azul, ou também verde, conforme fosse o caso. Mas a escola era, em termos materiais, era extremamente elementar. E o curioso é que revisitamos por essa via a noção originária da escola, que consiste no encontro de alunos com os seus professores para um processo de ensino-aprendizagem. Ali, de facto, a gente voltava à origem da escola e interpretava rigorosamente assim. Portanto, uma escola do mato, mas uma escola do mato está longe de qualquer urbanização. Está longe de qualquer sinal de povoado, aldeia, ou está mesmo no mato. E tem de estar no mato para se proteger contra o helicóptero, contra o avião, contra os maus olhares, digamos, dos inimigos. Nisso consistiu uma escola do mato. Ser-se professor, aprende-se. Nós deslocamos sempre com aquele fervor revolucionário da juventude daquela altura, com aquele espírito Black Power que nós utilizamos e que era uma marca, um sinal, uma revolta, os sinais exteriores de revolta contra o sistema, contra o regime colonial. Fomos recebidos e, pronto, as pessoas iam preparadas para todos os sacrifícios, inclusive, quando chegamos, perguntarem-me, e quando fui recebido no aeroporto, quais eram as minhas expectativas. E nós naquela sempre dizer, não, nós estamos à disposição do partido, mas nós viemos para combater. Era toda aquela visão também um bocado, sei lá, utópica, um bocado, sei lá, sonhadora, do espírito cheguevarista e da guerrilha, do guerrilheiro intelectual, o guerrilheiro que seria, portanto, oferecer e trabalhar e lutar para que, com armas na mão, libertar o seu povo. Era um pouco esse espírito. Finalmente acabamos por cair na real, porque quando eu sou recebido no secretariado, no dia seguinte, fui instalado, comecei a falar com as pessoas, a entender a realidade das coisas, e quando eu chego, quando me apresentei e disse o meu nível escolar de estudante, perguntaram-me: o que é que pretende? Eu estou disponível para o partido, eu vim para a luta, eu estou disponível para ir para a frente. Eles disseram: aqui há várias frentes, a luta tem várias frentes. Tem a frente militar, aquela do embate direto, mas temos também a frente da educação, que é uma frente tão importante como a outra. Porque não interessa, não adianta libertar-se se não nos prepararmos para depois assumir a responsabilidade da independência. Consideraram que eu deveria ir para a frente da educação. E foi aí que eu fui conduzido e introduzido como professor na Escola Piloto de Conakry, e onde fui recebido pela doutora Lilica Boal e pela Beatriz Gomes Cabral.
Quello che ho imparato alla scuola pilota non l'ho imparato sui banchi dell'università. Con quei giovani, quei ragazzi così puri, così impegnati, così convinti di questa lotta, tutto era diverso. Era un'esperienza di apprendimento. Il rispetto che avevano per te, il modo in cui parlavano, la disponibilità all'aiuto, sempre a disposizione, questo mi ha stupito. Il mio primo giorno da direttrice, non so cosa ho detto, non me lo ricordo, ma so che avrei chiesto qualcosa non per me, ma per la scuola, e in 5 minuti era già tutto lì. Non l'ho mai sperimentato in vita mia. Per noi, la guerra di liberazione e la partecipazione alla guerra di liberazione è stata una grande scuola di vita. Innanzitutto, per l'esempio di altruismo delle persone nelle zone liberate. Una volta ho dovuto ritirarmi in una missione in cui stavo andando al confine. Ho dovuto ritirarmi perché eravamo quasi caduti in un'imboscata. Ho dovuto camminare, sono dovuta tornare indietro da dove ero venuta, e quando sono arrivata in una casa, la casa di qualcuno in una regione liberata, l'uomo mi ha dato il suo letto sul pavimento per dormire, per riposare. Queste cose segnano una persona e si dice sempre che si impara molto dalle persone umili. E io ho imparato a perdere l'arroganza della giovane studentessa universitaria che pensa di sapere tutto. Ci sono esempi nella vita quotidiana, a contatto con le persone, che ti fanno aprire gli occhi per lo stupore e la vergogna di fronte a una certa prepotenza e un'arroganza delle persone. Per me è lì che ho imparato a essere un po' più umile. Se è stata la lezione più grande. E naturalmente ho incontrato anche pratiche tradizionali sulla salute, certe cure per alcune malattie che non avevo mai provato, ma che sapevo, parlando con loro, che erano in grado di curare con foglie, erbe, infusi di piante o rami di foglie o radici, o come si dice, la corteccia degli alberi. Non so se sia corteccia, ma sapete cosa intendo, no? Oltre a radici, foglie, fiori e frutti, c'erano anche cose che venivano estratte dagli alberi per essere curate. Una ricetta che ho imparato e provato una volta e che ha funzionato è per una malattia dalle pelle chiamata contagiosum muscolare, che cresce sulla pelle come un chicco di mais. Una volta stavo parlando con un anziano e chiesi: come si cura? Prese una foglia da un albero di yucca, la strappò e quando si strappa la foglia esce una linfa latiginosa. Disse: vedi questo? È simile o no? Ed era simile. Lo metto qui e in 3 giorni scompare. Ho provato e in 3-4 giorni la lesione è sparita. Significa che c'è molta saggezza che ignoriamo o che disprezziamo e che invece dovremmo provare, conoscere, imparare per poterla usare davvero. Un'altra cosa che usavano, ma che non ho mai provato, è il trattamento dell'itterizia, con un infuso di foglie che fanno un tè giallastro. Almeno in Guinea, molte medicine tradizionali erano fatte con oggetti che si assomigliavano alle malattie per colore o consistenza. Il colore giallo degli occhi, il tè giallo di questo o quella pianta. Molluscum contagiosum, che è un'ampolla, come se fosse un chicco di mais, una goccia di latte, con la goccia di latte che esce dalla yucca. E qui a Cabo Verde c'è una pianta che si chiama spaccapietre, arrebenta pedra. Non so se ne avete sentito parlare. Si tratta di piccole piante, rampicanti, erbe che crescono tra le pietre spaccate e la gente pensa o attribuisce quella pianta alla spaccatura della pietra. Ecco perché la chiamano arrebenta pedra. Quindi ci fanno un tè per rimuovere i calcoli renali. Si parla molto di aloe vera, sì, ma l'aloe vera è universale, anche negli Stati Uniti. In Guinea non l'ho mai vista, o non ricordo di aver visto l'aloe vera come viene chiamata. Ho visto dei cactus con foglie grasse e rotonde, con molti aculei, che venivano usati per curare la pertosse. E la bava di questo cactus assomiglia alle secrezioni appiccicose della pertosse. Lo raccoglievano e ci facevano e si tossiva, era più facile espellere queste secrezioni.
De ponto de vista interno, nunca pôde injuto contributo de população em momento de que zona que no início da década de 60 veio transformar na zona libertada. Principalmente gente que zona que fica perto da fronteira, de que zonas libertadas, mas também de que zona que ainda sistema colonial português até ocupado. E gente que sacrifica chil com pouco. Eles produzem, eles recebem uma cesta banca, eles protegem contra o adversário e, sobretudo, sobretudo, eles fornecendo comida e tudo que está podendo para a luta poder ganhar. Portanto, é naquela combinação inteligente entre um apoio cada vez mais teu na plano interno e uma projeção também cada vez mais grande na plano internacional. É que a combinação inteligente que garante financiamento para a luta. Uma luta é sempre caro. É caro na vida que te exige, é caro na saúde, principalmente de que alguém que fica mutilado para a vida inteira. É caro com a família, que fica completamente desprotegido horas que se perde seus membros, trocado de saúde degradada, um braço que fica, ou um perna que é rebentado. E que ele é um elemento decisivo. E me está doendo de ver. Para modo muito vezes, para a inconsciência, está desvalorizado aquela parte de contribuição de que as gentes mais simples, gentes de tabanca, gentes de rubeira, de cutelo coladeira, no sucesso de luta.
We talk a lot about the principles, organization, and practical preparations of the two-step elections of the first National Assembly of Guinea-Bissau, which was underway all over the liberated areas at the moment of our meeting, and which actually took place only a few months later, during August to October of 1972. Indirect elections extending over several weeks, 77,550 voters, then elected 273 members of the 11 regional assemblies, who in turn elected among themselves 91 persons to be members of the National Assembly, which met to declare the independence of the state of Guinea-Bissau in Medina de Bué on September 24 of 1973. Cabral sees the regional councils as structures de base for their future democracy. The democracy he has in mind is not going to be any common Occidental democracy, but a decentralized cooperative democracy. His vision for the future is not for the regional councils to be elected on the individual one person, one vote basis, but by way of voting within various cooperatives. Society is going to be organized in such a way that all, or practically all citizens are members of some kind of cooperative, who in turn will elect their regional representatives locally. This cooperative democracy is rather a vision, not a concrete project. He even uses the word dream, rêve. He has not had the time to write about this yet, only a few notes and drafts. The answer to the problem of democratization, he says, is the institutionalization of structures which tie the people and the leaders together in such ways that people's participation and control of their leaders are facilitated in all possible ways.
Bonsoir à toutes, bonsoir à tous. Merci à vous d'organiser cette session, de m'associer à la modération. Je ne sais pas si c'est voulu ou c'est juste une coïncidence. Aujourd'hui, on est le 25 juin. Et le 25 juin, aujourd'hui, c'est l'anniversaire, c'est les 50 ans de la proclamation de l'indépendance du Mozambique, un autre pays où on a eu cette lutte de libération. Et c'est le 25 juin 1975 que Salvador Machel a proclamé l'indépendance, la fin de la guerre, l'indépendance du Mozambique. Et c'est là que je vais faire le lien avec ce qui est dans le film, en disant que la lutte continuait, mais contre l'ignorance. On a vu que l'éducation était au cœur du projet de Cabral. Mais ma première question pour Sónia, c'est quel est le lien entre ceux qui ont lu ces textes et les auteurs des témoignages? Parce que ce ne sont pas eux qui ont vécu ce dont ils parlent, c'est les témoignages qu'ils lisent. On a le nom à la fin de ceux qui témoignent de leur implication, de leur mémoire de la guerre. Quel est le lien entre ces acteurs qui lisent les textes et ceux et celles dont ils lisent les témoignages?
Thank you for the question. Thank you for watching the film. I hope there is some Creole speakers, Cape Verdean Creole speakers in the room. The link between those who read and those who told the stories. It's a funny story because we didn't have that much time to prepare this film because it was going to be part of the Venice Biennale, and Portugal only had 3 months to put the whole pavilion together. So we have to, in order to make the film possible, we had to go to our close networks. And that's why I had...
Asking you to take the headphones out so that you don't get confused.
Okay. I completely deleted the sound.
Oh, perfect then.
So we had we had very few time, and we had to ask our friends to do. And there was one person missing that had to speak English, and then we couldn't find a friend that would be available to do that. So we invite. So I appear in the film reading the English part. But there is a connection because Aboubacar Demba, who's speaking in Cape Verde Creole, he's from Cape Verde. And all this text he who translated the text from Portuguese to Creole. And he's very active. All the 3 people are very active in the diaspora scene. And for example, Thelma Duan, who starts who is the first to appear. She's a female hip-hopper, very well known in Portugal, and we chose her because of the power of her voice. And Juliana, who's the one who's talking about who speaks the Italian, and we wanted to somebody who spoke Italian because it was going to be part of the Biennale. And the idea was to have a collection of languages, because the topic of the Biennale was foreigners everywhere, and how do we think about foreigners through the lens of language. And the authors, these were interviews that I did between 2013 and 2014. And we have the testimonies of Enrique Boal, Manuel Boal, Luciano Tolentino, Agnel Regala, Lars Rudbeck, and I wanted to do a collection of their testimonies, and I wanted to have this collection in several languages, and especially in Creole, because it's very rarely that we speak Cabral language. We normally present Cabral in Portuguese, and we rarely present him in the Creole language, especially Creole from Cape Verde. So we wanted to bring all these elements to the film, and these people were the ones that were willing to participate in the project.
Avant la deuxième question, je voudrais faire une suggestion à Ro, parce que dans les conditions dans lesquelles on a vu le film, peut-être derrière on n'a pas peut-être vu tous les sous-titrages et autres, peut-être qu'on aurait enrichi la chose. Bon, on a parlé des liens de ceux qui ont lu les textes, les témoignages avec, et votre lien personnel, vous, avec cette histoire. Je sais que vous avez lu un texte introductif, mais j'aimerais que vous reveniez là-dessus pour dire en quoi il était important pour vous-même de rapporter des témoignages, mais aussi des éléments de la vision de Cabral en matière de démocratie, puisqu'il parle de démocratie coopérative, démocratie participative, mais votre implication personnelle dans le film.
My personal involvement in this film, well, I've been reading Cabral since I was in my 20s. Actually, reading Cabral was a huge introduction to Africa, and especially to Guinea-Bissau and Cape Verde. That was missing for me during my entire part of my youth. So Cabral has been part of my life now for almost like 25 years. And my personal involvement with the story is while I was reading Cabral, I was constantly thinking, who are the others? Who are the other people? Because otherwise we are thinking that this is almost like a joke, but you can think Cabral as the crazy person that's thinking and doing everything alone. And you don't see almost no reflection of who are the other people who contribute for him to develop his thoughts, and with whom he was collaborating in order to produce or create the place of the liberation struggle. So I was thinking about it, and when I was doing my research, I could easily go to the archives. Well, not so easy because most of the material from the Aboubacar Cabral were at the time I still in Portugal at the Fundação Mário Soares, and you could only have access if you were in Portugal. For me, it was easy because as a Portuguese I could travel in and out, but it was also expensive. Expensive in a way that one copy page of the archive would cost you 50 cents. So imagine if you have a huge amount of copies to do. Luckily, the archive was open to the public and accessible online. So what you do is spend a week like downloading everything because you don't know when it's going to be accessible. And it was going through this archive that I start to see like the images that are there, the names that are there on the writings, for example, on the military, on the schools, and so on. So I made a small list of people and I decided I'm going to, in order just to not to use just the materials from the archives, I want to see if I can meet these people. So I went to Cape Verde with a short list, and I had 6 names, and I ended up interviewing 15 people in Cape Verde. And within was Lili Caboal and Manuel Boal and Cristina Tolentino already passed away. He was a huge supporter of my research when I mentioned to him that I wanted to do this research, and he said, so you come to Cape Verde and I'll help you doing that. And then it goes like a snowball. One person gives you another name, and then he gives another name, and by the end it's like you can stay there for a year and you keep on interviewing. And it was from Cape Verde that then I went to Guinea-Bissau with a list of names that they had gave me. And again, it goes on this snowball of people to interview. And of course, when you're interviewing, and I will not call, I'm doing this interview, I will say this is a conversation. And the fact that I speak Creole was very helpful in creating, demolishing the barrier between the researcher and the one who is being interviewed. And you get very attached to them. It's actually a huge privilege in my life that I had the opportunity to meet and sit on the table and eat with the people that actually opened the way for me to be here today. And that is my personal link with the stories. And the fact that I had this privilege of talking with them about many, many subjects, I can't just keep it to myself. And in this way, the research, the book, allowed me, and the film allowed me to share these stories with other people that you cannot find in the archives. So the reason. It's fine?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay. So the reason why I decided to share this, the personal link that I have with these stories, is because I have the privilege of eating, sitting, learning from these freedom fighters. It's actually a huge privilege to sit at the same table, eat from the same plate, of people who opened the way for me to be here today. And because I had such a privilege, it's also a shame if I just keep it to myself, these stories that you cannot find in the archives. And that's my personal link with the people, and I became friends with a couple of them. I'm still in contact. Yeah, so this is the personal link, not only the privilege of knowing them, but privilege also of being able to share these stories to other people who cannot find in the archives.
Je vais donner la parole au public, sans peut-être ce dernier commentaire avant de revenir sur le fait que ces différents témoignages, on a souvent associé les luttes de libération, les mouvements de libération à des figures, on va dire tutélaires, Cabral, Montlane, il y avait les petites mains. On avait souvent des agents de liaison dans les guerres de libération, dans les mouvements de libération, et dont la participation était aussi importante. Et en lien avec le thème de cette académie, sur les lieux, les déplacements, on a vu que des noms sont évoqués, des noms de lieux, l'Angola, Sao Tomé, Conakry, la Belgique, on aurait pu ajouter l'Algérie, le Sénégal et d'autres pays, et que c'est plusieurs mains, plusieurs consciences, plusieurs contributions qui écrivent, qui font l'histoire d'une lutte de libération de n'importe quel autre mouvement collectif. Philippe, je ne sais pas si on peut mettre le micro dans la salle. Si vous avez des commentaires, des questions à Sónia.
So thank you for your sharing.
Are you speaking?
Okay, so my question is about the documentary that you showed. I could not understand everything because I wasn't black. But my question was, why did you decide theater to display what you had to portray, especially since you said that indeed you want to use different arts to display your research, and you chose the documentary and you added other arts. You did not just make a documentary, you also used theater, etc., etc. So can you please just develop on why making this choice?
We do.
Moi, j'ai juste une question. C'est sur la manière dont tu as identifié. Sur la manière dont tu as identifié les combattants du PAIGC. Parce que beaucoup d'entre eux n'utilisaient pas leur vrai nom. Cabral se faisait appeler Abel Jassi. Bernardo Vieira se faisait appeler Nino. Est-ce que ça a été facile de pouvoir identifier les combattants une fois qu'ils sortaient du maquis et qu'ils reprenaient leur vrai nom?
Sónia, merci pour ton film et ta présentation. J'aimerais juste que tu reviennes sur la vision de la démocratie de Cabral, sa vision d'une démocratie radicale. Et est-ce que tu peux faire un lien avec comment les choses ont évolué aujourd'hui dans ces espaces-là?
Just 1 second, I'm writing so then I can look at it and then answer it properly, so I don't divagate too much. So thank you so much for your questions. Why did I decide to do theater? Because theater was also part of, not normally we say like the theater of the liberation struggle, like the place where it happens. First, that's one of the things that comes to my head. In Portuguese, we say teatro da luta de libertação, meaning like the place where it happens. But I also chose the theater setting because I wanted like to be on a stage. I didn't want distractions around what they were telling. I wanted a black box. We want not just this is a collaborative film with Mónica de Miranda, and we didn't want it. We didn't want it too much distractions around the stories that was being told. So that's why we chose the theater setting because of the stage, meaning also the stage of the world, to represent and to tell these stories. So basically, and none of us is trained in theater, so it was also a challenging work of how we are going to do this. I think it worked, and you can clearly see that the interpreters, they are reading, you can see their eyes moving, and we didn't want them to memorize the story. It was like, this is a reading, and sometimes in theater you have the people who help you, like with the notes in case you forget, and we wanted to have that incorporated. So it's not so that the liberation struggle is not a memorization, but it's an acting of, as a concept praxis. How did I identify the freedom fighters? You see the small names or the war names that they were given, and then you just go to the other freedom. It goes from freedom fighter to freedom fighter, and they will tell like, this is this people, this is this person, and then when in Cape Verde it was much more easier to locate them because well there are not so many as it is in Guinea-Bissau. Guinea-Bissau is like you bump on someone and you have the uncle, if they didn't participate in the liberation struggle, the uncle, the brother, the grandfather, somebody participated in that episode. Like you just go and you go from door to door, and part of the idea of the walking archives comes also from this, because I have to walk to find these people. I have to knock doors to find these people. I have to carry the material, like heavy material, because pure research what you are doing by yourself and you don't have any money. So you have to carry all the materials, the camera, the batteries, the water, the tripod, everything. And at the end of the research, like I have, my feet are completely damaged because of that walking. And that's the way you identify the freedom fighters. You just knock from door to door, you ask people in the street, you ask friends, and they will tell you where to go and how to find them and how to address them. Because sometimes some of them are not using the name, the war name. They use it in a specific circle, but they don't want you to call them. Like, you are strangers, you are not yet, allowed to talk with them, to use their name to them. So it's funny also to know, I know that Lily Cabral, her full name is Maria de Luz Boal. And Maria de Luz Boal is married with Manuel Boal, which we did that because they were a couple. They are a couple. She passed away last year with 90-something years old. they have their private name inside the house. And it's funny to see like these interactions that we will not see it anywhere else. Yeah, the vision of democracy, this radical democracy. I can't add much on the vision of the radical democracy because this is a testimony from Lars Goedbeck, who interviewed Amílcar Cabral in, I think, in 1972, if I'm not wrong, 71, 72. And this is an excerpt of his notes, because he wrote a diary, like a field diary, like his notes of interviews and so on. And then he translated to me this diary. And this passage is on the diary. I didn't have the opportunity to talk again with Lars Goedbeck to ask him about this vision of democracy, for him to elaborate more on his memories. But I think through the work of the writings of Cabral and the action of the liberation struggle show us a lot about this radical democracy. That is to think is not going to be an important one, but it's going to be the one that we build. And they were building that already in the liberated areas in Guinée-Bissau.
La question, c'est le lien aujourd'hui avec ce qu'on vit comme démocratie ou la situation particulière.
About that, I'm going to apologize, but I will not talk about it because we all know the political situation of Guinea-Bissau. For example, it has a coup d'etat since 1980. Every 2-3 years there is a coup d'etat. There haven't been a government that fulfilled till the end, like the 5 years or 4 years of government. And the situation is very precarious in terms of democracy, so I will avoid to talk more please on Guinea-Bissau. In Cape Verde, I think we have an idea that everything is going well because the structures function according to Western standards, but there is a lot of other politics within that are complicated. So I can say that there was a vision from the liberation struggle of imagining what life would be or what forms it could take. What happened after the Nino Vieira coup d'etat in 1980 is something that I avoid to touch.
Portuguese or English? Should I ask in Portuguese or English?
I think you have to ask me
in English.
In English because of the translation.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for this amazing work. I think it's an amazing documentary, and I want to thank you for this amazing documentary. I think it's a wonderful portrait of the colonial struggle, the colonial war, and it also shows the sense of brotherhood, solidarity between Cape Verde and Guinea-Bissau, how they join their forces, the courage, and how they conjugate their efforts to fight for freedom. So I think it's an important documentary. But now my question has to do with colonial damage. Right now there's a debate going on in Portugal about, and there's some part of the political class saying that Portugal must pay colonial damage, and the praxis with André Ventura, who's the opposition leader and one of the most important political figures in Portugal right now, is saying no, Portugal must not pay any political colonial damage because they have done so many positive things in Africa during the colonial times. They contributed centuries and centuries in building Africa in many ways, so they don't have to pay anything. So I want to know how do you personally feel about this? Do you think that Portugal must pay colonial damage? And based on your perspective as a Portuguese citizen and also as a Cape, how do you personally feel about this? Thank you so much.
So I wanted to thank you first for showing us your movie. The first question that I had, or just comment that I had, was about the different objects that you showed. Some of them I wanted to know if they were correlated with the testimony, the memory that was being counted, or if it was used as like a simple illustration. Also, I wanted to comment and thank you for sharing with us in the documentary, you and Monica, the testimony talking about the importance of envisioning and actually preparing for what comes after said revolution, the importance of holding space for bush education, so that we can also tackle the idea of imaginaries and projection of the self and the community after the turmoil of loss and grief.
Thank you very much for your presentation and your documentary. I wanted to ask you if you have already had the opportunity to present it publicly in Cape Verde and Guinea-Bissau, and in which context did you present your documentary so far, and what kind of reactions you collected from different parts?
Thank you for your questions. I go by order. Please don't, the gentleman who asked the first question, please don't take me wrong, but I refuse to call it colonial war. It's a liberation struggle. The colonial war is from the side of Portugal. Portugal can call colonial war, but we'll never call colonial war. We will call a liberation struggle, because that was what it was. It happens, and that has a lot to do with the colonial language that we are taught in Portugal, and how we use and how do we refer to ourselves and our work itself. I think when you mention colonial damage, you are talking about reparations, correct? Okay. So André Ventura is one of the many. It's just one more talking about that Portugal should not pay reparations. And from one side, I think it's impossible to pay reparations in the damage that it causes. It's literally impossible. Lives, futures, everything had been destroyed. And what I think the reparation should look like. I'm not thinking about a monetary reparation, because that's impossible. But there's a human reparation that I think you have the right, not the right, you have the duty to pay. And let's think about the borders. I can enter with a Portuguese passport anytime I want in Cape Verde, even if I was white. But a Cape Verdean person cannot enter Portugal anytime they want. They have to require a visa to get in. So this brotherhood that Portugal so much talks about does not exist. And this is a form of reparation, if you really wanted that to happen. Now, we create, there is this saying, the world that Portuguese created, o mundo que o português criou. So then take responsibility over this world that you created. And one of the aspects is the border. The other aspect of reparations is education, as they call the colonial war, but they never refer to liberation struggle. So Portuguese soldiers were not fighting in the empty; they were fighting against someone, and why they were fighting. So you have to conscientize people in Portugal that this was not just a simple war. Actually, it was the war that gave end fascism in Portugal. So teaching these kind of stories is part of the reparation. So when we come with this populist understanding of what reparation is like it's a trap, because everybody's thinking about a monetary reparation, which is impossible to pay, and nobody's thinking about the deepest issues of how this world that the Portuguese people created are so interconnected, but they are not taking any responsibility over the damage that they cause. And I think taking responsibility over the damage that they cause is the reparation that they need to do. And it's not just Portugal; it's any country that forced colonized other countries or other territories and destroy what they were building there. That's how I see the process of reparation. The objects, they all have a symbolic meaning. Let me see if I remember them all. So one is the radio. The radio was the main instrument, like the main instrument of communication during these times. Like there was always the radio, always the letter, always the telegraph. That's all we had. Then there is the books, the school manuals. Actually, the images that you saw, they are the original ones that I've been searching for years on the, how we call, thrift stores of books. I forgot the name in English, but those are the original ones. So it's to represent like these books actually existed. They are not just a fantasy. Then there is the Interflug ticket, which is it is an original ticket, not from the person, but just represent like that, like the collaboration that the Soviet Union also support, like this process. Then there is the recorder, which is to represent Amélia Araújo, which was the broadcaster of the radio broadcaster. Then I think there is the estilhaços, how do you say, the sharper, which is like to represent the sharper that when the bomb fall, all the sharper went to like hit people, and some of them died of it. Then there is, which one it is?
There's a tea, like a tea.
The tea mug. Yeah. The tea mug is to represent Carmen Pereira, which was the first women president in Africa of a country, even if it was for I think it was one day and a half, but she was the first woman president. And I had the privilege to interview Carmen Pereira. And I asked her what was the main, like you were walking and traveling across the country because she was a political commissary. And I asked her like what was the object that you always carry with you? And she said, I always carry with me a porcelain teacup. And I asked her why. I was like, because that's the way that I grew up, drinking my coffee in the morning. That's the only luxury that I wanted to keep from my life before joining the liberation struggle. And having my coffee on my teacup was a crucial thing for me to start the day. So that's all those objects are connected with people, and we decided not to mention who are these people, just because we also have to use the imaginary, like why are these objects here, and what do they represent here? And each one of them tells a story. Okay, and the opportunity to present in Cape Verde and Guinea-Bissau. I didn't have the opportunity to present yet in Cape Verde and Guinea-Bissau. I'm living in like miles away from this. I did have the opportunity to present to some of the people when I visited Cape Verde last year, so I presented individually, but not like on the broader screen. And this is, I think, is going to be the next phase for me and Mónica, because we were literally exhausted from the Venice Biennale, because this was being shown at the Venice Biennale. And right now he's starting to think what to do, not only with the films, but also with the sculptures and the whole project that we created.
Une dernière série. Non, moi, la peut-être dernière question que je vais me poser, c'est que ce travail sur la mémoire des luttes de libération s'inscrit aussi dans un cadre de large exploitation des archives de la guerre de libération. Il y a des images, parce que Cabral avait envoyé, je me rappelle souvent, 4 Bissau-Guinéens à Cuba pour qu'ils étudient le cinéma, qu'ils viennent documenter la lutte de libération. Dans quelle mesure votre travail s'inscrit dans ce large spectre de travail sur les archives des guerres de libération, mais particulièrement de la guerre de libération du Cap-Vert et de la Guinée-Bissau. Donc, comment l'inscrivez-vous dans cette
That's really a good question. I never thought about it. I literally never thought about it because I was really far away from my mind. But yes, Cabral sent 4 students to Cuba to study film. Sónia Rada, Josefina Grato, Flora Gomes, and there is another person that is skipping now my mind. And they all went and studied study film and then return and film the liberation struggle, what was possible of. And how my work extends to these archives. Well, there is this first film that I made with Filipe Cesar, which is a navigator to pilot school, which is interesting because at the time we didn't know each other. I was doing my PhD in Germany, and she was working with Arsenal and Sónia Rada with the filmmakers in Guinea-Bissau to recover the footage that they had. And interesting enough, they were showing this Return of Cabral that I heard about, but it was impossible to see the film, and they were showing it in Berlin. That's when Filipe and we met each other. And then a friendship developed and so on, and we have the same, we have parallel research, and we constantly were talking about. And when the material was recovered, like footage was recovered, I was also doing the research in Cape Verde. And then I told her I never saw, there is no images of the Escola Piloto in Guinea-Conakry, in Hatoma. And she said no, we actually recovered some footage of it, but they don't have sound. And I told her but also I interviewed these people, the students in Cape Verde, and because we didn't have any photos, they were telling me from memory how the school looked like. And then we decided to do a combination between the footage that had been recuperated, and the sound that I had from the interviews that I did, specifically with the daughter of Amélia Araújo, Teresa Araújo. She was telling them by memory how the school looked like, while Lika Boal and other students were doing the plant of the school. So we create this film based on the plant that was drawn for, because my idea when they're talking about the schools in the bush, they're I don't have any idea how a school in the bush looked like, or how the Escola Piloto would look like. So it was can you draw it for me, make a plant so I can visualize more or less where the places were. So they draw a plant hidden, and then they offer me at the end of my trip. So they draw the plant, and then we had the footage, and then we had the sound. So what we see on the film is the draw of this plant made with Legos. And then you have the images, it's intercepted with images and the sound. So I think this work extends the work of Sandra Nahada, Forago, Josefina Crato, because it adds another layer to it. It's like, not to be pretentious, but if I hadn't interviewed Teresa Araújo, if I hadn't met Lídia Boal and Filipa César, probably this footage would just be the footage. But I think with my research, the research that I do, together with the work of the filmmaker of Sandra Nahada, the 4 Ghanaian filmmakers and other visual artists, is just an extension of the archive that is missing, the archive that we don't have access, the archive that is about to die, and is this process, this combination of disciplines that allow us to create an archive, it's a walking archive that will continue to grow and will provide new imaginaries for us to imagine the struggles that we go today, inspiring the struggles, and take the energy from the struggles that happened in the past. So I think that would be the extension of my work through what has been done, what is to be done, and what we are doing.
Merci Sónia. Juste un petit comme information, elle a parlé de Sandra Nahada et de Flora Gomes qui viennent de finir le documentaire sur Cabral. Ils sont en train de le monter entre Bissau et Lisbonne, parce que c'est le film de leur vie sur Cabral, sa vision, la lutte de libération et toutes les thématiques qu'il a développées. La lutte est un contenu idéologique et politique. Fatima, c'est Nadia Fanta.
Merci. Thank you everyone for coming today. Thank you, Cisco. We have some yama-yamas outside, but also Friday we have Mei Loko, the architect, who's been here with us for the past few days, who will also have a public program. So we look forward to seeing you there.